On AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So the Senate's version of the BBB has emerged. Some of the goods makes the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent, of course, integral, including capital expensing provisions, school choice tax credits, and the opportunity zones. And the school choice tax credits, I just want to mention that again. The school choice program that would be created, and it's in both versions, the House and Senate, $5 billion federal opportunity scholarship program, allow people in all 50 states to donate to scholarship granting organizations, receive 100% dollar-for-dollar tax credit for their contributions, contributing up to 10% of your adjusted gross income up to a maximum of $5,000. So, you know, as much as we've struggled in the discussion about reducing the size and scope of spend of government, this is one really positive area, more than just in terms of reducing the spend on the centrally planned spend on K through 12. But how do you change any system? Change how the money flows and who gets to make spending decisions. And this does both. And $5 billion is nothing to sneeze at, particularly if you're in a state like Illinois that couldn't see its way to maintain the school choice program. Be a lot of competition for it, but it's a good start. It's important. The unfortunate provisions, what is and is not in it. No cut in corporate tax rate. That's a mistake.
Well, taxes on tips, isn't it up to $25,000?
The good, well, it depends on your perspective. It caps the no tax at $25,000 and the no tax on overtime at $12,500. Depends on your perspective whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. But in other words, some people no cap, some people there shouldn't be a carve out. So it's a discussion point. No HSA expansions. No. 15% business tax on made in the USA products. And still extends many of the Green New Deal energy giveaways that were featured in the previous administration, because pork is pork, including to many Republicans, unfortunately. Here was what one neo-Marxist senator, Ron Wyden, who bears an amazing resemblance to Super Dave Osborne.
Oh, really?
Neo-Marxist from Oregon, Ron Wyden, had this to say.
This bill that my colleagues are talking about is a textbook case of class warfare. It is, in effect, caviar over kids and Mar-a-Lago over the middle class.
I wonder how many staffers it took to come up with that line.
That's a good one. Mar-a-Lago over middle class. Let's get something with M's and pretend that we're Reverend Jackson. Okay.
By the way, I think a lot of people say, "Oh, you mean Funkhauser from Curb Your Enthusiasm? He'll always be Super Dave Osborne to me." Okay. Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. Steve joins us now. Hey, Steve.
Good morning, guys. I think you did a good summary of the bill, Dan. I would simply say, though, you kind of buried the lead. It's a good bill overall.
Yeah.
It's better than the House bill, and I like it. And you were quite correct in the flaws. I don't like the fact that they went soft on getting rid of these stupid Green New Deal subsidies. We've been subsidizing this stuff for 40 years, as long as the three of us have been alive, and yet they always say, "Oh, it's just going to be 2 or 3 or 4 more years." Back in the late 70s, wind and solar subsidies. These are infant industries. We'll just help them for a little while, and here we are 40 years ago, later, and they're still doing it. So I think that's an unfortunate element of the bill, but overall, it does a lot of good things. I want to stress that one point you made, Dan, about these. What do they call them? 527. What are those college programs?
The scholarship granting organizations for the school choice programs. The money that people put in 527s. What are those? Where you put money aside and you get tax free and you get to use it for college. Yeah,
I think it's called a 527. Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to amplify what you were saying. So under this bill, one very good feature is, that you can actually use that money instead of, for college, you can use it for, if you've got a 7th grader and they want them to go to a good school, you can use it for the tuition for a private school. The last place in the world we should be sending the money is to colleges. They have plenty of money. Wow. It should be for kids in grade school and high school who want an alternative to, especially in a place like Chicago where you have the most rotten public schools in the country. Yeah, why not give that to parents? So I love that idea. I think it's fantastic.
I agree with that too. Bad news for many wealthy Illinoisans. The SALT cap in the Senate bill stays at 10,000 as opposed to the 40,000 bump it got bumped to in the House version.
Yeah, I know very, very, very wealthy people like Amy are not going to be happy.
I don't have to worry about that. But Pritzker, other people, I remember when this was an issue with Trump and when Biden got into office, they thought they'd get the goods back and they didn't. So this was their other chance, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. So, by the way, I just want to stress something. 85 to 90% of people in the state of Illinois who file a tax return will be getting a tax cut. So the idea...
But I'm worried about rich white leftists seeing their taxes go up. Yeah.
Exactly. There aren't that many rich people left in the state because they've all gone to Florida.
Well, they're smart, like Dan, and moved out.
So I think that it is a good. Look, there is no reason that people should be able to deduct their state and local taxes off their tax returns. That's all you're doing is encouraging states and localities to raise their taxes. It's one of the reasons, Illinois is such a high tax state because the feds pick up a share of it. So we want to get rid of that subsidy, and we're going to do it. And that's a very, very good thing for the country. And by the way, if you don't like it, take up your beef with people of Springfield. They're the ones who are making Illinois the 4th highest tax state in the country. So I'm glad that they lowered that deduction to 10,000. I'd like to get rid of it entirely. But that's going to set up a big fight, Dan and Amy, because now you've got these 5 Republicans in the House who say, well, we're not going to vote for this bill because we're from New Jersey and New York, and we have high taxes here. So that's going to bring a big fight on.
Because what about the national debt? The debt ceiling, Trump wants to abolish that, but in the House's version, it's $2.8 trillion, and it's a little bit more with the Senate version. Do you think people care about that?
Look, we should care about the debt. Yeah, absolutely. It's a disgrace to our country that we are $37 trillion in debt. We're going to have to deal with the spending problem in the next bill. This is about cutting taxes and making it for a good tax system. But, I'm with Ron Johnson and Rand Paul that we should be cutting a lot more spending. We can't even get these guys to get rid of the fraud. They won't even cut people who are, the liberals saying, how dare you cut off people who are fraudulently getting Medicaid and food stamps? That's mean. That's cruel.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I saw the Council of Economic Advisors put out new research that federal taxpayers, American taxpayers, spent about $561 billion on Medicaid for working-age childless adults working less than 20 hours a week. And Rick Scott responded to it. Not many other senators have. What did there? Despite Josh Hawley's objections, is there any improvement in the Senate version on Medicaid for people Medicaid wasn't intended to serve?
A little bit better, but even this is just a little Band-Aid on a cancer patient. You've got $160 billion of fraudulent payments a year in Medicaid. And by the way, overall, in terms of all the the welfare programs, the number is $522 billion a year. That's the number that we got from the government's own auditors. So it's a disgrace that they can't even get people off Medicaid who aren't even eligible for the program. But that's where we're at. So overall, I think it's good, though. I just want to make sure people know this is a good bill. It's not a great bill, but it's a good bill. I give it a B. And we got to get it passed. And if all these Democrats, like your good friend Ron Wyden, want a $4 trillion tax increase next year, then and incidentally, every single Democrat in the Congress, every single one of them, and you got a lot from them. How many Democrats do you have in Congress from Illinois? Probably
15 of our 18 members.
Something like that. Every one of them voted for a $4 trillion tax increase.
Well, they voted for kids instead of caviar for Steve Moore. Yeah.
MAGA over medium income, middle class, I mean.
There's some other good news, too. I saw this. Scott Besson tweeted this out. 2% real wages for hourly workers up 2% in the first 5 months of Trump's second term. That's the strongest growth in 60 years. So that people are feeling better and getting some tax relief on top of wage growth. That's a good combination.
Yeah, no, the economy's good right now. There's no doubt about it. Remember 2 months ago when I was on your show, I was on the ledge and you had to walk me down because I was ready to jump off. I mean, the stock market had collapsed. And a lot of this, frankly, is because the tariff wars have calmed down a lot, and Trump has gotten a lot more reasonable. He's getting some pretty good trade deals. You know, I'm not a big tariff guy, as you guys know, so I wasn't a big fan of that. But it's turning out pretty good. I mean, Trump has got he signed the deal with the UK. We're going to get a deal with India. Lord knows what's going to happen with China, whether you can trust them. But apparently they've got a deal underway with them. So as soon as it's amazing, every time Trump stops talking about tariffs, the economy booms. Every time he announces a new tariff, the stock market, the economy goes down. So maybe we should just stop talking about tariffs.
Well, I mean, but you can't stop talking about them until you get these trade deals that everyone is waiting for with bated breath, particularly as it pertains to Europe and most importantly China, right?
Yeah, but my point is that with China, I mean, Trump is touting the fact that he has a trade deal with China in the works, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's what we used to say about the Soviet Union, and then they would sign anything, but then they would completely violate the terms of the agreement. So you remember what Reagan used to say: trust but verify.
Yeah.
If we sign something with China, we better make sure they're living up to the deal, because they do lie, they do cheat, they do steal, and it is not a level playing field. So if you get that thing done with China, I think it will calm a lot of the jitters that we saw in the market. But overall, I'm going to give this economy a B+. I think it's doing very well, and I think Scott Besson's doing an amazing job. And you get this tax cut bill done, I think you're going to see a big boom in the market.
Okay, on that happy note, Steve Moore, economist and author of
bank, guys.
What's that?
And you can take that to the bank, and happy Juneteenth. Is Juneteenth really a federal holiday?
It is a federal holiday. Yeah.
It's tomorrow. Today's June 18th.
Yes, yes.
But thank you in advance.
Make sure to fly your flag. Steve Moore, thank you.
Yeah. I'll be working tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM